Hello, and welcome to a session where we're going to get to have a little look at things that are evolving and being released by Netlify. I'm Phil Hawksworth. I'm part of the DevRel team, and I'm very fortunate that I get to play with the toys as they're being developed, but then also when they get out into the world. But let's be honest, it's better if you hear directly from the people who are building things what it is that we're building. So very fortunate that today I get a chance to talk to Erica. Erica, how's it going?
Great, great. It's great to be here. Honestly, can't complain. Everything's been really great lately.
Is it worth just telling people what you work on at Netlify, and then we can get into the good stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I work on the composable tooling team here, which works mainly in the ecosystem and more specifically, recently in the integration space that our developers use to extend their sites and extend the functionality there. And we're looking to make that experience a lot better.
And so you've been working on integrations, is that right?
Yeah, so more specifically, I've been working on private integrations. So historically, integrations has been something that third parties have built to enhance people's Netlify sites. Some examples include Sentry, Cloudinary, Algolia, and these things are very focused, and they tend to be generally incorporated into the build process.
Got you.
And what private integrations focuses on is extending that even further and giving a lot more comprehensive functionality to people's sites than just necessarily, let's say, build events.
Nice. Okay, great. So I know that we do have a bit of a kind of an integrations kind of marketplace or integrations hub where we can see integrations that exist already. But I know as well that that's evolving, right? So the way that we build integrations is getting more powerful and kind of getting more reusable as well. And you dropped in a term there. You said private integration. So before we kind of get to see some of this and dig in a little bit more, can we talk about what's a private integration versus what's another kind of integration? What do we call it? Is it public and private? What's the nomenclature that we've got?
At least internally, we've been starting to say public versus private integrations.
Okay.
Before it was just integrations because these were all packages that were generally hosted on NPM and were publicly available for people to take a look at. But we're moving toward a paradigm where, while that still will exist, where people might want to create integrations that anyone can use. There is often a need for developers and enterprise companies where you have custom tooling that you can't put on public NPM registries. You don't want to share that with people. It's a very bespoke solution, but you do want to have that extended functionality incorporated into multiple sites. And so private integrations is trying to help those developers where you're trying something out and you don't want to maybe necessarily make it publicly available, or you have let's say you acquire like logging providers or error monitoring that you just need to share that same functionality with. You can create a integration that is specific to your needs, publish it on Netlify for your team specific use case, and then
Right.
share that across the sites within your team.
Nice. So if I'm an author of one of these integrations, I can create a private integration that all of the other people in my team, my Netlify team, can use on all of our sites, and just keep that private to us. But then there is also the model, if I understand this correctly, of if I wanted to make that more widely available, I could share that integration so that other people could take that, clone it, and make it an integration of their own as well that they can share with their teams as well. Have I got that detail correct? Nice.
Exactly. So the way that public integration is like kind of what we have today for integrations prior to the launch of private integrations, I should
Yes.
say. So that still exists. That right now has a bit of a different, shall we say, onboarding flow than private integrations. But over time, we're hoping to make it as easy to launch a public integration as we have now made launching a private integration for use within your team.
Sweet. Awesome. And this is all getting better and more powerful because it's all now backed with the SDK, right? We're building these things with the Netlify SDK, which didn't really exist before when we started doing other types of integrations.
No.
So that's a big area that you're working on, right? Building out the SDK.
Yeah, and actually, so private integration spun out of like while I was working on the SDK, trying to trial building our existing Sentry integration using it and finding all the little points of friction there. And it quickly became obvious that there were a lot of folks that like maybe they weren't using Sentry, maybe they were using Bugsnag or some other monitoring tool, and realizing that why not just make it easy for people to use the SDK in the way that we're using it to build the Sentry integration and do it for their own particular needs.
Nice.
And that's how that kind of came to be.
Sweet. Okay, it's getting more and more powerful. I love it. So it sounds like we'll be able to, we'll be able to do things like hook into build events. We'll be able to integrate with other tools and services, whether it's something like Sentry, like you mentioned, or some library that does kind of accessibility auditing or checking the output of your build, or indeed integrating with any other services that might have APIs that we might be able to hook into around the web. So, right. So it kind of expands the ecosystem over and over again, I think.
Yeah, and it tries to provide a really nice interface so that you can access multiple pieces of functionality that Netlify offers. So not just to what you mentioned before, build events, but also create Netlify functions to act as API handlers.
Nice.
So that you can just have it all packaged in a really nice, cohesive way and be able to host it in one single area rather than having pieces of functionality spread all over the place and trying to make sure you remember where they all live when you're trying to incorporate it into your sites.
Got you. I love the fact that you're doing this a lot. Every time I speak about integrations, I find myself doing this. I'm doing a lot of hand gestures. So maybe a good thing for us to do is can we look at something? Can you show us some stuff on a screen? It might not be a full demo, but it would be lovely to get an idea of what these look like and how they exist in the Netlify world. Is that's something that are we allowed to do that? It's not a secret
I'd love
now,
to.
right? We're allowed to do this now.
Yeah, and I apologize. I was brought up culturally Italian, so speaking is like half of my way of, or like hand gestures was half my way of speaking.
This was not a criticism. This is me finding comfort.
All right, let's see here.
Cool.
So we're just on. I have a very simple like Hello World Astro project that we're on right now.
Okay.
And then what you'll notice here is we now have this like private category that exists for integrations. You still have your existing public integrations, but now we have this private one. You can see here that we have a couple of essentially test integrations. Netlify Connect connectors can exist within the space as well. And so when you're looking to create a private integration, you'll be brought to a page that looks like this, where you fill out some information that you want the rest of your team to see. And then one of the really cool aspects about this is that your private integration is hosted as a site on Netlify. So what you would do here is you would specify which Netlify site you have that is serving as the host for your integration.
Oh.
So I have one already up in this other tab, but we'll get to that in a second. That's the one right here. And then you can specify whether people will be able to install your integration either on individual Netlify sites or on a team level. Over time, I think we would love to have this happen on an even higher scale, like at an organizational level. But again, because it's early days, we just decided to focus on this.
Yep.
And in one of the weak spots of public integrations right now, at least in the initial version, is that we weren't able to provide our developers the ability to specify what scopes they wanted and needed in order to operate successfully. And having this available and asking people to provide this, especially over time for public ones, will make it easier for companies to be more aware of the security risks of particular integrations and what data that they're accessing. So while this isn't the full amount of resources available on the Netlify API, this is what we're starting with. And then once you've created it, we're just going to pop out for a second. There we go. So once you've created it, you can just click it as easily as you would any other one with just enabling it. Maybe there's some additional configuration that you might have to add. This example is very lightweight. I don't have any UI, but using the Netlify SDK, you can do things like add form fields and any other sort of information that you need to ask people for in order for your integration to run correctly.
So when someone is enabling their integration, they can be putting things like, I don't know, API keys that talk to whichever service is providing it, or any other or whatever other details we need to capture to kind of configure the integration. That can happen right here in our UI. Is that right?
Exactly.
Nice.
And if there's something that is more central to the integration itself that maybe historically you would have had to set as an environment variable across multiple sites, that now can exist just as an environment variable on the integration site in one central place.
Got you. And just sorry to I'm turning this into
No, no.
just purely my support call. Uh,
No worries.
you showed kind of setting up a new integration there, and you say it exists like on a URL within Netlify, like it's a site. Where does the code live for that? Is that connected to a repo in the same way that any other Netlify project would be?
Yeah, it can be. And
Okay.
that's usually the flow that we encourage people to use is that
Okay.
hosted on a certain source control,
Okay.
whichever, if it's on GitHub, whether it's Microsoft Azure DevOps or
Got you.
GitLab. And then when you make changes, it'll just kick off a deploy like it would a normal Netlify site.
Got you. Nice.
Um, and honestly, for me, the one of the most exciting features about this is that because it is like it is treated like a normal Netlify site, you benefit from atomic deploys. And so you can do things like one-click rollbacks if you accidentally pushed some bad code on your integration, and now like 20 of your sites are running this bad code. You can just quickly bump that back.
Wait. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So I didn't pick up on that before. So
No
these
worries.
integrations benefit from the same kind of developer workflow as just any other site that we've got on Netlify. So you've like you mentioned like the atomic deploys, like immutable builds,
Exactly.
branches as well. I mean, branch deploys as well. Is
Yep.
that a thing?
There's deploy previews. All that stuff
Wow.
exists for your integrations.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I hadn't picked up on that before. Nice. Okay. That's a valuable detail. Oh, what an upgrade. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, you know what? Why don't we just like hop over there right now and take a
Okay.
look at that? So, in this Astro project, so what I did for kind of the simple example is I added a, hang on, I will show the code here. So I have this build event handler that when the site is building, it just puts out a console.log. Something really simple, but obviously it can be much more advanced. And so in this, you can see that actually to start with, we have a dedicated section to let you know what integrations are being installed on your site.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then any output, in this case, related to those will be put out. Now, let's say that, again, we have, actually, so this is an earlier one. If I go to, whoops, I'm in the wrong thing here. So if I kick off an initial deploy here, so the current version
Mhm.
on the Astra site will show hello again.
And sorry, this is the build of the site that's using your integration, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Astra Project is our site, and then PyTest is private integration. I wrote Pi thinking like just like private integrations, but I actually like thinking of actual Pi now.
Yeah, I mean,
Look at this
we all
thing.
like thinking of actual pie, no matter how you're spelling that.
I'm gonna need to get some later today. All right, so there's our hello again message. Now I mentioned before about atomic deploys, so I want to promote this particular one, which has the stuff that we saw in the code before.
Mhm.
So I just click publish. Now, in this case, because it's a build event, I have to trigger the
Right.
build in the Astro project. But
Right.
if you were using something like API handlers, you don't need to redeploy it. The change will just happen instantly,
Got you.
and
Yep.
that functionality will be live.
Right, but this integration is providing something which is a build event hook, effectively. So it's listening to the build.
Exactly.
Okay, got you. Yep,
Exactly.
makes sense.
But yeah,
So this is a good
that's
example of something that might do, for example, check all of the links in your site that you've generated to see if you've got any 404s. That's the kind of thing that you might offer, so that when the build is completed, it kind of scans the output HTML and then sees if there are any links that don't work. For as a kind of noddy example, that's something that might hook
yeah,
in.
yeah, you totally could. And like it would be pretty awesome too if we figured out a way that if there's a test that fails, that we could automatically kick off the rollback for you and just make you aware that that's something that happened.
Right.
That's
Yes, indeed.
that's me like dreaming big, but like there's so many possibilities that we could kind of grow from just being able to do this in this manner.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, that's our quick demo.
Nice. Awesome. So I'm pretty excited about this because it feels like it's a maturing of the integrations that we've been offering before that were kind of a bit closer to maybe to plugins. But now through the SDK, we've got a kind of a richer way of creating these integrations that lots of services will be able to kind of arrive into the Netlify world a little bit more easily. And I like the idea as well of being able to share these across my team first of all, so that it's available anywhere on the team. But then also people being able to create these, publish them, and kind of share them so that other people can install them in for their teams as well. So it feels like it potentially could get quite rich and quite interesting very quickly.
Yeah, that's the hope. And we also just we're happy that we were also able to expose a way for people to define the UI that they need as well. Because I think that's also been one of the shortcomings as well, is if you needed information from your users as the developer of an integration to make your integration work correctly. It was a very manual process. It kind of, they would get lost. You couldn't make it look the way that you wanted to. And we're happy that we as a team were able to make that possible in private integrations as well.
Awesome. So where should people go to find out information about this?
So developers.netlify.com, I believe, goes to the SDK docs right now.
Okay.
And that will give you information for how you can get started, the references that you might need for different commands that are available to you. We also have outlined in that documentation a simple command. I think it's, if you run npx create at netlify/SDK, it will guide you through a kind of simple onboarding to create your first private integration and deploy it to Netlify.
Oh, so sorry. So the CLI currently provides you a kind of a bootstrap way to get through to creating the integrations. Is that what you just described?
Yeah, so if you don't do it through the UI and you just want to create a very simple Hello World skeleton project, the CLI gives you a way to do that.
Nice. Excellent. Cool. So there's onboarding through the CLI. When will we start seeing the UI that you just showed in the Netlify UI? Is that there now? Can people start exploring that now, or is that to come?
Yep, that's live now. That's actually the first thing we built was the UI. So that's something that people can use today if they'd like.
Awesome. Great. So people can explore that, find that through the integrations section in the Netlify admin and the Netlify UI. And if they need more information, they can go to developers.netlify.com and start playing with new integrations and start building integrations of their own for their teams and potentially to share right now. Awesome. Erica, thanks so much for giving us a tour and a little bit of an insight into what's going on. I'm excited to see what's coming next. I know that these feel like toys that are just getting richer and richer and more powerful. So it's a great opportunity for me to play with these things. So thanks so much for showing us those, and good luck with the next round of development.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for anyone who uses it and has any feedback to give, we're always keen listeners and wanted to know what you're excited about seeing next. And thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. All right. Until next time. See you later.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.